believe Tesla is going to announce another gigafactory within the first 6 months of next year. We're going to talk about that in this video. First, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam. For those of you who are returning, it's good to freaking see you. I'm actually driving. I'm not driving. I'm in my Tesla Model 3 while it is driving. I do not have the FSD beta yet. I did purchase it though. And the car is driving while I make this video. Now, why do I think that there is going to be an announcement of another gigafactory in terms of the construction and where we'll be next year, just based upon demand? Because when you think about Tesla at this moment in time, they've got their factory in California, they've got their factory in Buffalo, New York, which is for the solar roofs, right? They have their factory in Shanghai. They've got the factory that is a little bit further along than the factory in Texas is getting built, but the one in Germany, right, in Berlin, that one is on its way to being complete relatively soon. And the one in Texas, in Austin, that I just mentioned. So, and the one in Shanghai is actually getting, is ramping up Model Y production. So how could they possibly think that adding more capacity would be a good thing to do? How could it possibly be the next best move when they're increasing capacity in California, Shanghai, Berlin's not online yet, Texas is not online yet, and this crazy fucker online is like, they're probably going to announce another factory next year. Well, besides the demand, Elon has mentioned that there might be another factory. So we already know he's thinking about this. He wants to literally impact the world, and when you're going through and you're trying to cause some type of impact on a planet, you're thinking about things in a little bit differently, not in the same realm that most people are going to be looking at a problem, because you're not thinking about the problem they're thinking about. You're thinking about it at a much grander scale. And when you look at Tesla not doing any advertising and all these other companies doing advertising, you wonder how they're selling all these cars. Or, well, not, I don't think you guys are. I'm clearly not, but some people on Wall Street are, right? Some of the financial analysts. But when you have the best product on the market, in the globe, you don't have to do any of that advertising. So when you look back at your life over the last several years, and you remember when you purchased a new XYZ, whatever your thing was, whether it was a car, maybe it was, you know, some piece of, maybe it was a $5,000 watch or a $10,000 watch or $40,000 watch. Maybe it was a house, maybe it was a boat, maybe whatever. And when you got this new thing, you probably told some people, whether that was just your, you know, close friends or other people. Well, when you have the best product out there and you're making a couple 100,000, well, probably going to be a couple 100,000 almost for fourth quarter 2020. I would expect it to potentially break 200,000 this quarter. Could be very interesting. But when you're selling that many vehicles and you're getting 200,000 people who are coming up on something that is so fundamentally different than what is in the marketplace, whether you're introverted or not, you will, there's a very high probability that you're going to have some portion of that 200,000 people, excluding the aggregate that you've already sold, but just of the new people who are going to be like, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. how did I not discover Tesla sooner? They literally have the best product on the market, and then they're going to go through and they're going to tell their friends, right? And whether that's one person and they tell their spouse or their boyfriend or girlfriend, right? Or they make videos on YouTube, right? So you have the local effect of somebody just telling their coworkers or their friends and family, and then you have the amplification effect when you post videos on social media or online. I have a TikTok, they're going to be linked down below, and I've got around 2,500 videos around primarily Tesla, around business topics too, but primarily around Tesla. And an aggregate of probably, I don't know, 25 million views across all the videos. So you have these 200,000 people per quarter, and that's going to continue to increase. And we'll just say that, say 50% of them don't tell anybody, and then, or just tell their spouse, right? So that's one additional person that gets sold on it. And then you have another 100,000 people who they go through and they tell several people, right? Whether that's 3 people or whether that's 300 people, right? And then you have maybe a small percentage of that 100,000 who go through and they'll make content, whether there's, you know, a website, a YouTube channel, Instagram, a TikTok, etc. And they will put out content to a large amount, a large audience relative to the remaining, right? That's where you get Pareto's principle, 80-20, right? And that 20% of people or less are putting out, are impacting it by a substantial margin in terms of the demand for Tesla. So you have these people who are basically selling the vehicles for them. And what happens when you have somebody that is extremely passionate about convincing other people, like haters? On a quick tangent, I had a family member who's somebody, and for a holiday event, I brought my car around. They did not care for Tesla, and they're like, oh, they're not even profitable, right? Clearly they are low information as well. And they had no idea about Tesla. They're just picking up little tidbits from the idiots in mainstream media. And when they got into the car and they drove the car, before we were done, and they were like, no, I'm not getting that car. I would not get a Tesla. I need a truck. I need this. I need that. Whatever fucking stories they want. I can't charge. I'm not gonna wait 6 hours for charge. Like the most asinine shit from a low information person who doesn't understand or just have the data to know what's going on. And then you present the information to them like reality, and then they get to sit in the car and actually drive the car, or have the car drive itself. Now you have those people that are actually getting convinced that they want a Tesla, and they're considering getting a Tesla. So you have the haters being converted. You have people who are just completely oblivious to Tesla now becoming aware of Tesla. And then you have the people who buy them and they tell 7 of their friends, right, about the car. And this has created such a incredible, if you go to Google Trends and you look up Cybertruck over the last 18 months, a vehicle that is not in production, you can see that when that came out, and there's still search demand for that. So you can look on Google Trends for search volume on Google, but as well on YouTube, which are the 2 largest search engines in the world, to give you an idea of the interest or awareness of something in a marketplace. And there was so much awareness that was brought to Tesla through events like that, along with the other things that I've gone over here, that there is so much demand for Tesla's products that when you see your backlog continuing to grow, as even you're like, holy fuck, I'm growing as quickly as I possibly can. Remember, California production, they're trying to grow. Shanghai, they're growing production there, including, I believe they're actually expanding the building and adding another line for Model Y to ramp that up. And they're going to start shipping those to Europe before the end of the year. They've got the factory in Berlin. They've got the factory in Austin that are both of those are under construction. And how is it possible that you can be expanding 50% year over year, roughly, in volume of vehicles and not be meeting demand without any advertising or marketing on your own? That's what we just talked about. They have so much demand for their products that I would expect, based upon the sentiment that I hear on the earnings calls and the events that Tesla puts forth, they have so much, and they don't talk about this stuff on the earnings calls, but I would expect another announcement, potentially, like if we're very aggressive, something before the end of maybe March, but more than likely mid-year or in the first 7-8 months of the year. I would expect another announcement for another gigafactory, or potentially another 2, but that more than likely wouldn't be until the end of the year, because we're going to have Berlin up next year. We're going to have Shanghai up next year. So I think that at least one, potentially 2 more factories would need to be utilized and then optimized over the next several years to get the production where they want it to be, to really start making a difference. Because if you figure the Shanghai factory is going to be producing over 1 million cars just by itself, and they're going to get to 20 million, and even if Berlin, some estimates around 2 to 4 million, like if you have 2 million cars getting produced out of Berlin, that's a ridiculous number. So the scale at which their ambitions are is going to require a different approach to a problem. If you think about the best way to understand the way that I see them acting and looking at issues is, if I told you to make another 10 grand, or if you wanted to make another 10 grand, right? You were like, I want to make another 10 grand next year, right? And then you're like, well, I could just work more, right? Or whatever you do, or I can get a part-time job, work like one day on the weekends or something, whatever it might be. I could start a side hustle, super easy to make another 10 grand. But if I was to tell you to make another 10 million next year, then you don't think about that problem the same. The approach that you would have to take is going to change from what you would need to do to get to $10,000 to $10 million. And that dichotomy between those two is exactly what is happening with Tesla, that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you share it with somebody else so they can hopefully find value in it as well. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace.